Hello YouTube, I'm Andrew Does Hair. You can find my work on Instagram at Andrew Does Hair. I want to apologize if this audio is a little bit messy today. I don't have a quiet place to record right now. I'm in a busy salon. Anyways, this is my client Julian. He looks like a freaking rock star. He just has such a rad look. And today we're going to give him a really texturized, broken, messy, grungy, grimy, rock and roll kind of haircut. So to begin with, I'm going to wet his hair down. This is going to allow me to work in smaller sections more easily. I can control the hair and part it, and wherever I put it, it'll momentarily stay. So I can get these teeny tiny little sections to at least pretend I'm being precise. I want to begin in the front of the haircut because this is kind of like the central focal point of the haircut, is that sort of fringe there. What I'm going to do is make this guide straight down the middle that is essentially elevated straight off of the head. Now, not straight up, but straight out from where it grows. In that center, I pretty much dictated the length that I want, and what I'm doing with these sections near the outside as I work outward is I'm bringing them into the previous section, which is going to cause the outer sections to be a little bit longer than the ones just inside. This will mean that when his fringe lays down, it's going to get progressively ever so slightly longer near the outsides of his forehead, as opposed to being just straight across like Lloyd Christmas. I'm doing this using point cutting and slide cutting and punch cutting and various like really jagged, choppy sort of techniques here. Even after I get the rough draft kind of in there, I want to come back in and just knock some holes out. This whole haircut is going to be very, very texturized and very broken. I want it to look like he cut his hair with like a broken beer bottle on stage after a set. So now I'm going to make a profile section straight down the middle of the head, building off of that beginning shape that I put in near the fringe. And I want that section to be round like the shape of the head. However, when I take these panels off of the sides, I want to go with more of a square shape. This is going to leave some weight in the corners. This is going to cause two things. So first of all, the hair in the middle of the head is going to be considerably shorter than the hairs near the outside of the head, which means those middle hairs are going to want to pop up and move and stick out more so than the hairs on the outside. And the hairs on the outside, when they lay down, they're going to leave a bit of a weight line around the parietal ridge, which is kind of optional with a haircut like this. I like to do it just so I know there's some structure hiding in there. One of the things that I think makes a really broken, jagged, messy haircut kind of work, like gives me peace of mind that it's going to look good, is hiding some structure inside of there. And so I'm going to leave some corners on this haircut a little bit more like a traditional haircut, but everything else about it is going to be quite non-traditional. Now, as I work through the sides here, what I want to do is grab sections, and as you can tell, they're very big, messy sections. I'm not even parting anything out. I'm just grabbing big areas and chunking them off there with a blunt cut, actually, even. But the reason I'm comfortable doing a blunt cut on a messy haircut like this is I'm elevating everything upward to cut it, which means as it falls down, it's going to fall very, very soft. And by doing this and bringing each section up to the section above it as a guide, it's going to create a progressively shorter near the top sort of haircut, but I'm leaving that corner on there from the shape that we put in at the top, again, so that we have a little bit of weight at the parietal ridge. And here you can kind of see that parietal ridge weight going down to like hair that is shorter, becoming progressively longer near the bottom. I'm going to continue this process all the way around through the back of the head, stopping roughly at the widest point of the head so I can leave that weight line there. So where I want things to be even a little bit longer, like right down at the mullet zones there, I want to leave quite a bit of a mullet. I'm going to bring that way up to cut it, and then each section above it, I'm using the section below it as a guide to know where to cut the section above. I will go back and refine some of this and slide cut and point cut and do all of that. But for the most part, by cutting this way, I can get a really thrashed, kind of wispy, shattered kind of finish just right off the bat with a big chunky chop like this. There in the back of his head, you can kind of see that weight line around the occipital bone that we deliberately left there. I am going to go in and break it up. But again, that's just structure that I want to have kind of hiding in the haircut there. I want to know that that's there so that when the hair moves, at least it won't look totally like a screwed up I did it myself haircut. It'll have some like, it'll whisper like, hey, this was on purpose, by just having those slight corners there. So now that I've finished working around the edges, I'm going to tidy up just over the ears here. This is kind of optional as well. Everything about this haircut is very much free-form. It's like there's no rules. We're just where we feel like it looks good shorter, we'll go shorter. I don't want it to bunch up too much on his ears, because then you have to do that thing where you decide which hair goes forward and which hair goes backward. And this way I want to kind of make that decision a little easier for him. By taking my trimmer here and cleaning up the werewolf hair on the neck, this will allow the lettuce back there to move more freely, because it's not going to be getting caught up on stubble and that sort of thing. And then once I have that werewolf hair removed, I can come in and knock chunks out. So the result from my sectioning was like very wispy, but I'm gonna take big pieces out so that it's still a little bit wispy, but also more chunky. Texturized hair can be kind of wispy or it can be kind of chunky. Like that's two different things that are kind of similar, but not identical. And I wanna go through and just take chunks out because I want this to break apart into like shards of hair. So now I'm gonna go back to those corners that I left all around the parietal ridge and break them up. I want to leave the length where there is length because that's gonna give me shape to my haircut, but I want to take weight out in big pieces here. I just want to take chunks out. And you'll see the end result. We took that weight line out there, but if the hair were to stick out, it would still create kind of a pleasing shape that would emphasize the natural bone structure. I like to think of this process as like kind of putting air into the finished style. Like I'm not adding texture. I'm adding air. And if that kind of makes sense, it's like a weird kind of mental jump there. But when the wind blows, I want his hair to just like breathe and move and bloom. So similar to what I did around the nape, I'm going to take this hair around his sideburn shorter, and this will allow the wispy pieces in the front there to move more freely. Now, again, like I was trying to remove some of the wispiness around the nape. I'm doing the same thing in the fringe here. I'm just taking pieces and knocking chunks out. Like I want this to look like he hit it with a weed whacker. I want like long next to short, next to blunt, next to wispy, just all mixed up. Styling his hair is very easy because he happens to have really good texture for a cut like this. He doesn't have to blow dry it for it to look cool, but you know, I'm not gonna make him leave with wet hair, so I'm gonna blow dry it. What I'm doing as I'm blow drying, I'm using high heat and high power and I'm wiggling the hair a lot. And I'm kind of checking the cut. You're gonna see me in a second here start to blow dry the hair up. Even though he doesn't necessarily plan to wear it up or down, he's just gonna let it kind of exist. I wanna stick it up to make sure it's gonna be confined into that clean shape that I wanted to put in there, you know, with the strong corners and that sort of thing. I wanna make sure nothing's gonna jump too far out. I'm gonna do that kind of all over the head, like not just in key areas. Like I want everything to see, I wanna see what everything's gonna do when it's pushed where we don't want it. So now as far as product, like I'm just noogieing in a little bit of ADH dry at the root here to kind of break it up and make it look a little bit dirty, a little bit lived in. I find that especially with styles like this, like moving the hair a lot while you style it is really, really helpful. Just like push and move and scrunch and wiggle and push and move for like a long time. And now we're gonna do a tiny bit of a photo shoot here because this is whatever, it's like a passion of mine. It's a fun thing for me. I travel across the country these days. I fly from California to Tennessee to do work. And since doing that, you know, and living out of a backpack, I've found that I have to be really selective about what gear I bring to shoot my haircuts. What I'm finding is I care about this little light a lot more than I care about the camera that I have on me. I'll show you a little trick here. I'm gonna diffuse my light with a balloon because I can get one of these for like $0 and it can fit in my pocket and it's gonna soften up the light considerably. Normally, if I have like every resource, you know, at my disposal, I'll bring a softbox. But if I'm traveling and living out of a backpack, this is gonna get the job done. And I'm surprised I don't see more people doing this. I think I want to buy some like giant balloons too. The bigger the diffuser, the softer the light is. But for the camera today, I'm using a Canon, what is this thing? 70D. I just picked this up on eBay for like 250 bucks. I've got a basic kit lens on here. Nothing fancy or special about the camera. But like I said, the light is going to make a world of difference here. This shot is without using the flash. This is just the ambient light in the room, and it looks pretty good. I like to try to get a few of those just in case, you know, like it is good light. We have a big, huge open light source on the right side here, an open window. But now I'm going to get a few shots with the flash, and by moving the flash further away from the subject, what I'm going to get is even illumination between the subject and the wall behind him. But the added light is going to put a sparkle in his eye. It's going to put highlights all over the hair. It's going to make the shadows across his cheeks look more dramatic. And overall, it's just going to give us like a punchier, cleaner photo. Now at this point, I'm going to move the light much closer. I'm tightening up my aperture. I'm lowering my ISO, and I'm going to get a shot that's going to be very dramatic and moody. I wish I would have had him here make the same pose that he did in the last two shots, but I didn't think about it. You can see a crazy drastic difference there by moving the light closer. What it's going to do is cause the bright areas to fall off into darkness much more abruptly. But there's another huge added benefit to shooting with a flash, and this is why it's so important to me to bring one. You think a better camera will get you a better picture? If you look closely at these images, you're going to see that having that added light allows you to use camera settings that will make your camera just scream. Like when you see magazine photo shoot style photos, sure, they're using pro cameras, but what really gets that look, that like punchy, crispy, detailed look, is having really good light. So there you have it. That's my messy, grungy, choppy, punchy haircut shot with a balloon. Thanks for watching.